Years ago, China's rise seemed unstoppable, like ants, constantly producing, constantly working. The world's factories grew with ruthless efficiency, cities that never slept, lights that never went out, assembly lines glowing through the night, prices dropping every single year, until Western competitors simply gave up trying. It was a miracle born of scale, discipline, and planning, a civilization turning human labor into economic horsepower. But every miracle hides a cost, and China's greatest strength is its ability to make everything cheaper, faster, and bigger. Think about it. You see something and go, wow, that's so cheap. But somewhere a Chinese manufacturer has already made an even cheaper version. And that is exactly what's destroying them now. Being too cheap. China's story is the story of modern capitalism stretched to its breaking point. A system that always puts growth first, while destroying the very future that growth depends on. What happens when the world's largest economy optimizes itself into exhaustion? How does efficiency become self-destruction? To understand that, we need to go back to the very beginning. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping stood before the Communist Party and shattered one of socialism's deepest taboos. Getting rich is not shameful, he said. It's patriotic. And with that, he unleashed one of the fastest economic transformations history had ever seen. Overnight, peasants became entrepreneurs. The countryside turned into factories. Investors poured in, first from Japan, then America, then Europe, like prospectors rushing toward a gold mine. Cheap labor, endless manpower, and a government eager to make deals. China set up a handful of special economic zones, small test cities where the rules were different. No central planning, no bureaucratic drag, no ideological purity tests. One goal only: attract capital, create exports. It worked far better than anyone expected. Shenzhen, a quiet fishing town of 30,000 people, exploded into a metropolis of millions within decades. The formula spread everywhere. Every province wanted its own boom. Every city wanted to be the next Shenzhen. Local governments borrowed and built highways, power plants, industrial parks, all to lure more factories. By the early 2000s, China wasn't just growing. It was devouring the world's demand for everything: steel, coal, copper, oil. Every Western company that wanted to survive offshored its production there. If something could be manufactured, it would eventually be made in China. But underneath that unstoppable rise, a dangerous incentive was hiding. Success meant being far cheaper than everyone else. Every local government cut land prices, cut taxes, cut wages to attract factories. Companies cut profit margins, cut quality, cut earnings. Everyone chased growth. Nobody chased sustainability. A race to the bottom, disguised as progress. For a while, it didn't matter. The machine was too powerful. Millions of workers poured in from the countryside every year, willing to work 12-hour shifts for a fraction of Western wages. Factories never stopped. Ports never slept. Western consumers got what they had worked for: $5 t-shirts, $300 smartphones, the illusion of abundance without inflation, and so on and so forth. And so China got rich. But by the 10th new shopping mall and the 100th steel mill, the system was just repeating itself, as if it was copying itself. The miracle had become an addiction. Local governments needed growth to pay back the loans they had taken to build more factories, so they built even more. By 2015, China's steel capacity alone exceeded the entire rest of the world combined. Whole industrial zones were producing goods faster than global demand could ever absorb. Prices started falling. not because of innovation, but because of desperation. When profits evaporated, factories didn't slow down. They accelerated, hoping that volume would make up for the losses. It didn't. That's when a new concept started circulating. One that used to describe people, but now described an entire economy. Involution. This isn't just people working harder for less. It's companies producing more for less. Competition where survival, not innovation, is the only thing that matters. A zero-sum war where the only weapon left is price. Solar panels, electric vehicles, batteries. The symbols of China's new economy became its battleground. Dozens of firms, many state-backed, flooded the same markets with identical products, each cutting prices to undercut the next. Profit margins vanished, but nobody dared stop. Because in a system where output equals legitimacy, reducing production means losing face. The cycle feeds itself. Companies slash prices to hold market share. Competitors match them. Profits collapse. Wages stall. Consumers cheer for a while, until they realize that cheap abundance comes at the cost of their own prosperity. In 2024, China's industrial profits fell by over 20%, while exports were hitting records, while factories were running at the highest volumes in their history, moving more goods than ever, earning less from every single one. This isn't capitalism in overdrive. This is capitalism eating itself. And China has been here before. When overproduction in coal and steel crushed prices in the 2000s, Beijing was forced to intervene, closing mines, merging plants, laying off hundreds of thousands of workers. It was economic triage. The country accepted short-term pain to prevent total collapse. 20 years later, the same picture. But this time the patient isn't a single industry. It's the entire growth model. And factories don't close because a spreadsheet says they should. They close when politics allows them to. In China, politics rewards motion, not contraction, even if that motion is running in circles. Behind closed doors, party officials know the numbers: falling profits, stalled wages, rising debt. But publicly, the message stays the same. Keep producing. Keep growing. Keep believing. Because if the machine stops, so does the illusion. Is this unique to China? No. History has repeated this pattern over and over. Britain's coal industry flooded global markets with such cheap goods that prices fell to the point where even British miners couldn't make a living. The solution: colonies, captive markets to absorb the excess. Japan's miracle economy of the 1980s hit the same wall. Overcapacity, deflation, and an aging population that stopped spending. In Rome, the collapse didn't begin with invasion. Vast estates worked by slaves produced so much grain and drove prices so low that small farmers went bankrupt. The backbone of the republic crumbled. Rome fed itself into imbalance. Every empire that masters efficiency eventually faces the same question. Can it stop optimizing long enough to survive? China's leaders know this. That's why they constantly talk about rebalancing, shifting from investment-driven growth to consumption. But rebalancing takes time, and time is the one resource a growth-addicted system has least of. So while Beijing tries to steer the ship toward innovation and consumption, the provinces are still building more factories, more infrastructure, more output, because that's what their incentives demand. It's like trying to go on a diet while the kitchen keeps cooking. There's a painful irony here. The things China overproduces most, solar panels, batteries, electric vehicles, are exactly what the world needs for the energy transition. But when prices collapse and companies go bankrupt, even green revolutions stall. The rest of the world gets cheaper technology at the cost of China's own profitability. Cheap abundance becomes a trap, not because it fails to create wealth, but because it destroys the motivation to create more. And when that happens, efficiency turns from a virtue into a disease. China's problem isn't too little productivity, it's too much. An empire that can flood the world with goods, yet cannot generate enough demand to make it profitable. The very force that made China rich, ruthless competition, now ensures no one can rest long enough to stay rich. This is what happens when growth becomes identity, when production replaces purpose, when the measure of progress is how cheaply you can make something that nobody needs more of. This isn't development. It's exhaustion on an industrial scale. And like every empire before it, China is learning. There is nothing more expensive than being too cheap. Because when a system neglects to optimize for balance, eventually the only thing left to destroy is itself.